Have you ever wondered about the stories we tell? Where do they come from? How do they change over time? The story of Easter is one of the most powerful. It is a story of hope, renewal, and new beginnings, but its threads reach back much further than you might imagine. They stretch deep into the ancient world. They are woven into the very fabric of nature itself. This journey is not about questioning faith. It is about understanding the beautiful and complex tapestry of human history. We will look at how old ideas became new again. We will see how different cultures celebrated the same powerful moment, the return of life after a long winter's sleep. Today, when we think of Easter, we often picture churches, crosses, and the story of Jesus' resurrection. These are the central pillars of the Christian faith. They hold deep meaning for billions of people around the world. But we also see other things. We see colorful eggs, playful bunnies, and tables full of food. These traditions feel just as much a part of the holiday. They bring joy and a sense of community. Where did these customs come from? To find the answer, we must travel back in time. We must go to a time when people lived by the seasons, a time when the sun and moon were their clocks and their guides. The story of Easter is a beautiful example of how traditions can blend together. It is a process called syncretism. This is when one culture adopts and adapts the beliefs and practices of another. When Christianity began to spread across Europe, it did not erase the old ways. Instead, it often gave them new meaning. It was a way to make the new faiths feel familiar and welcoming. The deep, ancient desire to celebrate the arrival of spring was not forgotten. It was transformed. It became part of a new story, a story that continues to evolve even today. It shows us that our human need for connection, hope, and celebration is timeless. Our exploration will take us through ancient lands and forgotten myths. We will meet gods and goddesses who ruled over the changing seasons. We will discover the hidden meanings behind the symbols we still use. This is a journey to understand ourselves a little better. It is a look at the shared human experience that connects us all. It connects us to our ancestors and to the natural world. Let us begin this journey together. Let us pull on the threads of history and see where they lead. We might be surprised by what we find. The story of Easter is not just one story. It is many stories woven together into something truly special. Long before calendars hung on our walls, people watched the sky. The sun was their clock. The moon was their guide. They knew the seasons were not just about the weather, they were about life and death. Winter was a time of darkness and scarcity. The days were short, and the world seemed to sleep. It was a time of survival. People huddled together, waiting for the light to return. The spring equinox was the moment they were all waiting for. It was the day when light and darkness were in perfect balance. From that day forward, the light would begin to win. The days would grow longer and the world would reawaken. This was not just a change in the weather. It was a cosmic event. It was a promise. The promise was that life would return. The frozen ground would soften. The seeds buried in the earth would begin to sprout. Animals would come out of hibernation. The world would once again be filled with color and sound. For ancient people, this was a miracle. It was a sacred time that needed to be honored. Their survival depended on it. They held great festivals to mark this turning point. They wanted to thank the gods for the return of the sun. They wanted to ensure, the earth would be fertile and their harvest would be plentiful. Every culture had its own way of celebrating this powerful moment. In ancient Babylon, they held a 12-day festival called Akitu. It was a grand celebration to honor their creation. god Marduk. They would reenact the epic battle between Marduk and the monster of chaos. By doing this, they believed they were helping to restore cosmic order. They were ensuring that harmony would triumph over chaos for another year. This festival was about renewing the world. It was about starting fresh. It cleansed the community and prepared them for the abundance that spring would bring. The entire city would participate in parades and rituals. For the Celtic people of Northern Europe, the spring equinox was a time of great joy. They honored a goddess whose name is believed to be Eostri or Ostara. Her name means dawn or east, the direction of the rising sun. She was the goddess of spring and fertility. She brought the light that vanquished the darkness of winter. To welcome her, people would light great bonfires on hilltops. The flames were a tribute to the growing power of the sun. They believed these fires would purify the land and bless it. This would ensure a good growing season for their crops and healthy livestock for their families. Across the ancient world, people saw divinity in the cycles of nature. The return of spring was not an accident. It was the work of powerful gods and goddesses. These deities were the focus of their celebrations. One of the most famous is the Germanic goddess Eostre. Although we don't have many written records about her, her name lives on. The 8th century monk Bede wrote that the Anglo-Saxons called the month of April Eosterminath. This was named after the goddess Eostre. Her festivals were held during this time. She was seen as the one who opened the gates of dawn, letting the warm spring sun shine upon the world. In ancient Mesopotamia, the great city of Babylon came alive for the Akitu festival. The central figure of this celebration was Marduk. He was the king of the gods. The Babylonian creation epic tells the story of his victory over Tiamat, a dragon representing primordial chaos. This story was more than just a myth. It was a blueprint for the universe. Each spring, the people of Babylon would act out this cosmic drama. The king himself would play a key role. He would be stripped of his power and humbled only to be reinstated. This symbolized the renewal of the covenant between the gods and humanity. It ensured the world's stability for another year. Further north, the Norse people had their own spring traditions. They honored the goddess Freya. She was a powerful and beloved deity. Freya was the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. She was also a fierce warrior. As spring arrived, people would make offerings to her. They would plant seeds in her name, asking for her blessing on the land. They wanted her to ensure that the earth would be fruitful. Freya was associated with abundance and new life. Her presence was felt in the blossoming flowers and the birth of new animals. Celebrating her was a way of celebrating the life-giving forces of nature itself. These are just a few examples. Many other cultures had similar figures. The Romans celebrated Flora, the goddess of flowers. The Greeks told the story of Persephone, whose return from the underworld brought spring to the earth. What all these stories have in common is a central theme. They all speak of a divine power that overcomes darkness. They all celebrate the triumph of life over death. And these gods and goddesses were not distant figures. They were active participants in the world. Honoring them was a way for people to connect with the sacred rhythm of the seasons and ensure their own survival and prosperity. Today, the Easter Bunny is a cute and cuddly character. He brings baskets of candy and colored eggs to children, but the rabbit's connection to spring is very, very old, and it was not always a rabbit. It was a hare. The hare is a mysterious and powerful creature. It is known for its incredible fertility. Hares can conceive a new litter of young while still pregnant with the first. This made them a perfect symbol for the explosion of life that happens in springtime. For ancient people, the hare was the embodiment of abundance and renewal. Its presence was a sign that the earth was waking up. The hare was also deeply connected to the moon. Unlike the sun, the moon is a creature of the night. It waxes and wanes in a predictable cycle. The hare is also nocturnal. It is most active at dusk and dawn, the times between light and dark. People saw a connection between the hare's cycle of activity and the moon's phases. And in many cultures, the hare was seen as a sacred animal. It was a messenger between our world and the spirit world. In some legends, it was even said that you could see the shape of a hare on the face of the full moon. This lunar connection made it a powerful symbol. The most famous connection is between the hare and the goddess Eostre. According to legend, the hare was her sacred companion. One story tells of how Eostre found a bird with frozen wings late in winter. To save its life, she transformed it into a hare. This special hare remembered its life as a bird. In gratitude, it would lay beautiful colored eggs as gifts for the goddess each spring. This ancient tale connects the goddess, the hare, and the eggs all in one story. It is a myth that explains how these powerful symbols of fertility and new life came to be associated with the spring festival. When Christianity spread, the hare did not disappear. The symbol was too powerful and too deeply loved by the people. Over time, its pagan roots were forgotten by many. The mysterious, moon-gazing hare slowly transformed into the friendly Easter bunny we know today. Its role changed from being a sacred symbol of a goddess to being a magical gift bringer for children, but the core meaning remains. The Easter bunny still arrives in spring. It still brings symbols of new life. It is a quiet echo of an ancient belief in the world's magical ability to renew itself each year. The egg is perhaps the most universal symbol of new life. On the outside, it looks simple, still, and lifeless. It looks just like a stone, but inside it holds the potential for a whole new being. It is a perfect little miracle. It contains everything needed to create life. Ancient people all over the world understood this powerful symbolism. For them, the egg was not just food, it was a symbol of creation itself. Many cultures had stories about a cosmic egg. They believed that the entire universe hatched from a single giant egg at the beginning of time. This made the egg a sacred object, and this belief can be found in many different places. In ancient Egypt, myths told of a cosmic egg from which the sun god Ra was born. In Persia, people decorated eggs for their spring festival, Nowruz. This festival marked the new year and the renewal of the world. The decorated eggs were a way to celebrate the return of life and color to the land. In ancient Rome, eggs were used in rites honoring the goddess Cybele. They represented the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And the egg was a container of mystery and promise. It was a physical representation of the hope that life would continue. The tradition of decorating eggs is also, very old. It was a way to add magic and meaning to the symbol. In Eastern Europe, the art of Pisanki developed. These were eggs decorated with intricate patterns and symbols using wax and dye. Each symbol had a specific meaning. Some were for protection, others for a good harvest, and others for fertility. These eggs were not meant to be eaten. They were talismans. They were powerful objects used to bring blessings and ward off evil. The colors also had meaning. Red might symbolize the sun or life, while green might represent the newly growing plants. When the Christian story of Easter took hold, the egg was a perfect symbol to adopt. The stone-like shell of the egg was compared to the tomb of Jesus. And when the egg is cracked open, a new life emerges. And this was seen as a powerful metaphor for the resurrection. The tomb was empty, and Christ had risen. The tradition of coloring eggs also continued, but with new meanings. Red eggs, for example, came to symbolize the blood of Christ. So the ancient symbol of creation was not discarded. It was given a profound new layer of meaning. It became a way to tell the story of new life in both a physical and a spiritual sense. The idea that something must die for something new to live is a powerful one. It's really a law of nature that ancient people understood deeply. They saw it every year in their fields. A seed must be buried in the dark earth. It must die and break open before a new plant can grow. In this cycle of death and rebirth was at the heart of their understanding of the world. To ensure that life returned each spring, they believed that some form of sacrifice was necessary. It was a way of giving back to the earth, a way of participating in the great cosmic cycle. And these sacrifices took many forms. Often they were offerings of animals or the first fruits of the harvest given to the gods as thanks for their blessings. But sometimes the sacrifices were more dramatic. Roman writers described a Celtic ritual involving a wicker man. This was a large, human-shaped figure woven from wicker. It was said that they would fill this effigy with offerings, sometimes even animals or human sacrifices, and set it on fire. Now, this wasn't done out of cruelty. It was a sacred act. They believed this powerful sacrifice would purify the land and guarantee its fertility for the coming year. The theme of a divine figure dying and being reborn is also a common thread in many ancient myths. These are often called dying and rising gods. The Greek myth of Persephone is a famous example. She was the daughter of the harvest goddess Demeter. She was taken to the underworld by Hades, and her mother was so sad that the earth became cold and barren. It was winter, but then a deal was made, and Persephone was allowed to return to the world for part of the year. When she returned, she brought the spring with her. Her journey from the darkness of the underworld back to the light was a story of seasonal renewal. This ancient pattern of death and resurrection finds a powerful echo in the Christian story of Easter. The story of Jesus' crucifixion and his rising from the dead on the third day is the central event of Christianity. It's a story of ultimate sacrifice. Jesus dies to overcome sin and death. His resurrection is a victory over the darkness, a promise of eternal life for all believers. The church naturally connected this profound story to the existing spring festivals. The themes were already there, the triumph of light over darkness and life over death was a story people already understood in their bones. After a long, hard winter, the return of spring was a reason to celebrate with food. Food was scarce in the cold months, and the first new plants and the birth of young animals meant that abundance was returning. Ancient cultures marked this with great communal feasts, and these meals were more than just a chance to eat. They were sacred acts of thanksgiving. People would gather to share food and thank the gods for seeing them through the winter. The food itself was often symbolic. Eating it was a way to connect with the divine and share in the renewed energy of the earth. The Celts celebrated Beltane in early May with great feasts. The Romans had the festival of Floralia to honor Flora, the goddess of flowers. The Persians celebrated Nowruz with a special table setting called the Haft Sun, which included 7 symbolic items. The Christian Easter dinner carries on this ancient tradition. Many families eat lamb for Easter, and this connects to the Jewish Passover, where a lamb was sacrificed. But the lamb was also a common sacrificial animal in many pagan rites. Eating ham or other meats was a celebration of leaving behind the Lenten fast. The feast was a joyful and public declaration that the time of scarcity was over. Joyful processions and parades were another way ancient people celebrated spring. They were a way to bring the celebration out into the public square, a way for the whole community to participate in welcoming the new season. The Romans held a parade for the goddess Cybele. The Celts and Norse people had processions with music and dancing to bless the fields. They would sometimes carry effigies of their gods or symbols of fertility through the streets and out into the countryside. These parades were loud, colorful, and full of life, a physical expression of the joy people felt. And this tradition is also carried on into our modern Easter celebrations. In many cities, there are Easter parades. People wear new clothes and fancy hats, a tradition that symbolizes renewal and leaving the old self behind. In some countries like Spain, the celebrations are more solemn. During Semana Santa or Holy Week, there are religious processions through the streets. These processions often feature elaborate floats depicting scenes from the story of Jesus' death and resurrection. Whether joyful or solemn, these public displays are a direct link to our ancestors. They're a way of sharing a powerful story with the entire community. The ancient world may seem distant, but its echoes are all around us. They're present in the stories we tell and the holidays we celebrate. In recent years, there has been a growing interest in reviving the old ways. Many people are looking for a deeper connection to nature and the seasons. Modern pagans and Wiccans celebrate the spring equinox as a major holiday. They call it Ostara, named after the goddess Eostre. Their celebrations often involve rituals that are inspired by ancient practices. Folks might light candles to honor the sun, plant seeds with intention, or create altars with symbols of spring. These modern celebrations focus on the themes of balance, renewal, and fertility. For them, Ostara is a time to celebrate the equal balance of day and night. It's a time for spring cleaning, both in the home and in the spirit. It's a time to start new projects and plant the seeds for what they hope to grow in the coming year. These practices are not just about recreating the past. They're about finding meaning in the ancient rhythms of the earth. They're about feeling connected to a cycle that is much larger than our own individual lives. But for many, it's a spiritual path. But you don't have to be a pagan to feel this connection. The themes of Easter have a universal appeal. The idea of renewal and rebirth resonates with people from all walks of life. The psychologist Carl Jung talked about the resurrection archetype. He said this is a fundamental pattern in the human mind. We see it in stories from all over the world. It's the story of overcoming great struggle, of emerging from darkness into light, of being reborn into a new and better state. This story gives us hope. It tells us that even after the darkest winter, spring will always return. This powerful idea is also finding a new voice in the environmental movement. We're becoming more aware of our planet's delicate balance. We're learning that our actions have consequences. The story of spring, of the Earth's ability to heal and renew itself, is a powerful message of hope. It reminds us of the resilience of nature. Celebrating Easter, whether in a church or in a garden, can be a way of honoring this renewal. It can be a reminder of our responsibility to care for the earth It connects the spiritual story of resurrection with the physical reality of our planet's health. Our journey through time has shown us that Easter is a story with many layers. It is a Christian holy day of immense importance, but it's also a collection of traditions that stretch back thousands of years. It's a tapestry woven from threads of different colors, different cultures, and different beliefs. The symbols we use, the egg, the bunny, the feast, are like ancient artifacts. They've been passed down through generations. Their meanings have shifted and changed, but their core message of life and renewal has remained constant. This is the enduring power of a good story. Understanding these roots does not take away from the modern meaning of Easter. It enriches it. It shows us that the human desire to celebrate hope is a deep and ancient instinct. For millennia, people have looked at the world coming back to life in the spring and felt a sense of wonder. They've felt a need to mark that moment, to celebrate it, and to share it with their community. The Christian story of resurrection gave this ancient feeling a profound new focus. It offered a spiritual promise that mirrored the physical promise of the changing seasons. The story of Easter is ultimately a story of hope. It tells us that life is stronger than death. It tells us that light is stronger than darkness. It tells us that even after the longest, coldest winter, the sun will return. This is a message that we all need to hear. It's true in the cycles of nature, and it can also be true in our own lives. We all face our own personal winters. We all have times of difficulty and darkness. The story of Easter reminds us that these times will not last forever. It is a promise that renewal is always possible. So as the days grow longer and the world turns green again, we're all participating in a very old story. Whether we are in a church celebrating the resurrection of Jesus or outside enjoying the warmth of the sun, we are connected. We are connected to the past and to each other. We are connected by a shared human story of overcoming darkness and embracing the light. It's a story that has been told in countless ways, in countless languages, for countless generations. And it's a story that will continue to be told as long as spring continues to return.